Hey guys, so today I want to talk a little about this new website here from Loa Logs, the main, Bible maker. So they have made their own website now, which you can go and check people's logs on. In the past, there were a couple other websites that did it, and now they have made one for themselves. And you go in here and check all the logs for the people who are uploading them based on like region, what boss they're doing, what classes they're playing. Very similar to the old one that we had in the past, but it's just now made by the people who make the Bible. But I didn't want to talk specifically around this Bible piece today because they actually have a very interesting section here with statistics. And these statistics, are very, I guess, surface level right now. There's not too much going on here, but they're going to be adding more soon. And with what we have right now, I think there is a little bit of interesting stuff to glean off of this. So they have two main charts here. First is going to be the total number of unique classes that people are playing using the meter. So basically, every single unique character is going to be one count on this list. It's not going to count like multiple logs or whatever. It doesn't matter if that character has 100 logs, 200 logs, whatever. That counts as one dot. So with that, we can see what the most popular classes are and what the least popular classes are. Now they have a second one here just talking about the number of logs uploaded by every character, and you can see Bard is beating everybody else. All the supports are pretty much beating everything except for Soul Eater, which is very popular, but we can talk about that a little later. But I want to talk about this one right here. Now it's a little bit hard to see what the distribution is because it is just alphabetized. It's not by most popular and least popular. So I went ahead and made a spreadsheet for that. So this list now takes these numbers and plots them onto a chart that I have sorted by most popular class to the least popular class. And I think this is quite interesting. Now, one thing before we dive into the stats themselves is, of course, this data is only from the people who upload their logs and use the Bible, right? So it's not exactly like a one-to-one of the most popular versus least popular classes. And I'm sure in terms like personality of player, probably certain classes are going to be skewed a little bit higher than others, but this is definitely the most accurate data that we have right now in our hands to be able to see what classes people actually like playing in the West and how does that compare to what happens in Korea. So first off, we can see on this list, Soul Eater is by far the most popular class in the game, and it has a close-ish second, but even here, I'd say that there's kind of a pretty big drop-off between the Soul Eater and the Paladin. But Soul Eater is by far the most popular class in the game, and I'm not surprised, right? It's flashy, it's strong, both builds are viable, it's a female assassin, which, has a very good character model. Like, there's no surprise that Soul Eater is the most popular class in the game, and we see that everywhere, right? We see Soul Eaters all over the place in Lost Ark, so it's no surprise there. I am a little surprised, though, that Paladin is number 2 on this list, and then Artist, and then Breaker, and then Bard. This is actually really surprising. I would have expected maybe Bard, maybe Artist to be the most popular class, and then Paladin, but it's Paladin, Artist, then Breaker, then Bard. Now, if you asked me before you went into this, right, I would say that even above Soul Eaters, I would think that the supports are more popular than Soul Eater, but apparently that's not the case. And we can see here, Bard being the first support that was released. I mean, Paladin was released alongside Bard, but I feel like more people played Bard back in the day than Paladin. It is the least popular support out of all three of them and gets beat by Breaker as well. Now, the reason why supports are so popular is because usually people have at least one support in their roster. So basically every player almost, you know what I mean, right? For the most part, a lot of players have one support in the roster at least. So that's why supports are so popular. Now, I am surprised that Breaker does beat Bard, but I guess it's for a good reason, right? Bard at the end of the day is probably the most clunky support out of all of them. You can say that Bard might be the best support or the highest ceiling support, but in terms of playstyle, playability, and clunkiness, I think that Bard is definitely the most clunky, having to run max MP and still running out of mana despite having that engraving. And of course, it's no surprise that Breaker's popular, right? Very strong class, very flashy class, very, new class. All these things combined make it a very popular class. And then we get down here, we have Slayer, which, big booba. And then we have Sork, one of the strongest classes in the history of Lost Ark. Pretty much always strong, been always strong. Deathblade's very strong, right? Arrow's a very popular class, very easy to pick up, very fun to play. Not surprised at any of these stats here. Now, we're going to skip through a lot of these mid tiers, I'd say, in terms of popularity, and kind of go down to the lower tiers. The couple things I'm surprised about, right? In Korea, Deadeye is much less popular than it is in the West. So there's actually a decent amount of Deadeyes here. And then we go down even further. I'm pretty surprised that Artillerist is so unpopular. I feel like Artillerist, for the history of Lost Ark in the West, has kind of always been a fairly strong class. Now, maybe not everybody likes to play the class, but, typically people, play strong classes, right? So that's what I am surprised about. I'm not sure I would have expected this to be much higher, maybe at least in mid tier, right? Not down here in the bottom. And then we also have Summoner. Like, again, I understand that Summoner has for the longest time been kind of a clunky class and still is to this day a fairly clunky class, and CO being a class that is not really that strong and really hard to play. But Master Summoner, I'd say, is widely considered to be one of the stronger classes, if not one of the strongest classes in the game, has been since their change and rework a couple months ago up until now. I think this was since like Breaker update, actually. It's not even a couple months ago. So they've been strong for quite a while, and I'm surprised that their bottom 3 classes here played. So guys, if you want to play a strong class, a mage archetype class, consider picking up Summoner, right? If you like being kind of more a hipster type of guy, but also play a really strong class, that's something you can try out. And then, of course, we have my boy Striker here as the second least popular class, which, I mean, I'm not going to say I'm surprised by, but at the same time, I would have expected it to be a little bit higher. Come on, man. It's a cool-ass class. It's so cool. The designs are cool. The sounds are cool. The attacks are cool. I think it's a cool class. But I'm not surprised that it's so low, having been Laz Umar for the longest time, and also just being a very clunky to play class in general, and not being like the strongest class out there. Not super surprised that it's so low on this list. And then by far, the least popular class on this list is Machinist. And I don't think that comes as a surprise to anybody, right? Scouter, overall, in general, has been considered a pretty weak class, both Evo being one of the weakest classes in the game for a while, and then AT Scouter being not as weak, but still kind of like awkward to play. Just makes it a little bit less desirable. And also, I'd say the animations are pretty out of date as well. They're kind of not very flashy. They're just kind of, just kind of meh. So that's not super surprising to me. But that's the list here for us. Now, let's take a look at the list in Korea and what that looks like. Now, the Korea list is actually accurate, right? That is a list that, basically they have the API data. They can just pull that directly off of the website or off the game and put it onto the Loa website. So I'll pull that up right now. So here's the list in Korea, and I've sorted it by 1,600 plus characters because, I don't think that the list that we have over here, sorry, the flashbang, I don't think that the list that we have over there is quite like, gonna be covering every single character. Because for the most part, I don't think people really use meter until they start getting a bit higher in their item level. So that's why I've kind of chosen this filter for this. And as we can see here, as I mentioned earlier, Painter, so Artist, Bard, the most popular classes in Korea, as opposed to Soul Eater being the most popular. And then Paladin is actually the least popular support, and it's by quite a margin too. You have to skip quite a few classes before we get to Paladin, so it's very interesting to see that difference. I mean, that's why I thought that Aya was going to be the most popular class here, because in Korea, that is the case. And this is a newer class than Bard too, so Bard has had a long time to grow its population, but then, the Artist just came in right after, and boom, went up to the sky, right? So we have Artist here, Bard, Breaker, very popular, Soul Eater, very popular. So Breaker is more popular than Soul Eater. And then we have, the Arrow, Blade, Slayer, all this stuff kind of not super surprising. And then Korea definitely does really like their Gun Lancers, as opposed to us, where our Gun Lancer is kind of more in the mid tier, mid-low tier in terms of popularity. Gun Lancer in Korea is very, very popular. And then we go down to the bottom tiers, and it's a little bit different, not like a ton different, right? Berserker was more of a mid for us, you know, Soul Eater a little bit higher, but then of course Devil Hunter, which is Deadeye, pretty low. For us, it's kind of higher than that. And then we had the Sharpshooter, Scouter, Artillerist, Demonic, quite a bit less popular in Korea. Summoner, also still pretty unpopular, and then Striker, more popular than it is for us, but I wouldn't say by a huge margin. I'd say for the most part, when we compare Korea to us, in general, the class distribution is pretty similar. Most classes kind of sit within the tiers that they were in both regions. Certain classes are kind of more popular than others. Maybe in one region, one is a little bit more popular than another, but typically a high tier class in terms of popularity, like the most popular classes are the most popular in both regions, and the least popular classes are the least popular in both regions. And people sitting in the middle, same thing, right? So that's kind of interesting that the meta, despite being kind of different between both regions, kind of ends up meshing together and being pretty similar in the way that people decide what class they want to do. I mean, it's not like super surprising because we end up following a lot of like the Koreans' advice and their tier lists and whatnot for the most part. And then we make the classes that seem popular before they come out here. You know, when the moment they come out here, people just rush to create it. So it's not that surprising, but yet it is surprising that there are certain differences here and there, kind of like within the supports and then also within some of these low tiers. But yeah, that's this website right here. Check it out. I'm going to leave a link down in the description below if you guys want to check the stats out, or, the logs. You can go and see how your characters perform compared to the other people who post their logs. But yeah, that's about it. Let me know down in the comment section below what you guys think about this, and were there any surprises, or was it expected for you? And as always, if you want to support the channel, the best way to do so is hitting the sub button. If you want to see more videos like this, just go ahead and press that button. I'd really appreciate it. And also, the other way to do it is by coming and hanging out on Twitch. I stream every single day on twitch.tv/BSoXShiro, starting at 10 p.m. PST. So hopefully I get to see you guys on my channel. But if not, hopefully I see y'all on the next video. All right, guys, peace out.